Welcome to the Sweet Sparrow Knits podcast. My name is Julie, and you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Sweet Sparrow Knits. And you can find my gardening Instagram at Sweet Sparrow Gardens. And you can find my hand-dyed yarn, woven pieces, and occasionally project bags at sweetsparrowyarns.etsy.com. Hello. Happy June. I can't believe it's already June. It feels good. Winter was long this year. I think a lot of people felt that way. It just felt like it really dragged on as long as it could. I am coming to you from a little canal keeper's cottage along the Delaware River in New York State. And we have now lived here for, about a year and 4 months. Time flies. It's so interesting. I feel like we just got here, but I also feel like I've always been here. So it's a good feeling. I do want to start off with a couple shop things just to get those out of the way off the top. First is 2021 Sweet Sparrow Yarns Advent Calendars. At the time that I'm recording this, there are, I think, 3 left in the shop. There might not be any by the time that this episode goes out. Unfortunately, that is all of the Advent calendars that I will be able to offer for this year. I am already hard at work on those. I am already dyeing the colorways, and I can't wait to share them with you. I wouldn't necessarily think it would be this easy to get inspired to do holiday inspired colors in early summer, but I just love them so much. Other shop stuff. I do currently have a woven piece in the shop. This is Moonchild, and this is a circular weaving that measures about 11.5 inches in diameter. Let me give you a little bit of a closer look. I love this piece. I was very tempted to keep this for myself, but I felt like it wanted to go live in the world with one of you, so here it is. This piece has several different hand-spun yarns in it, including these really amazing Teeswater locks that you can see here. They're super curly and fun. It has, I think, 19 freshwater pearls. It has silver sequins that were made in France in the 1920s. I really love this piece. I love the very subtle, you can see it just there, the very subtle hints of like a lavender pink and a pale blue that run through this piece. So if you feel like you would like Moonchild to come live in your house, you can find it in the shop. I am also currently accepting requests for custom weavings, and there is a link in my Instagram profile that will take you to a Google form that you can fill out with a request. And the last piece of shop news that I want to share with you is that the summer round of the Foraging Club is currently available in the shop. So for newer viewers, the Foraging Club is a 3-month yarn club where every month you receive a skein of fingering weight yarn in colors inspired by something that you can find to forage and eat. And it also comes with a little information card about that month's inspiration. And then during the last month, you get a project bag. So this is the one from the previous round of the Foraging Club. I made one for myself. Often when it comes to project bags that I am selling, I kind of put off making one for myself because I think, oh, that's not important. I can do that later. I have other more important things I need to be doing. but I just could not resist, and I sewed one up for myself right away out of this fabric. And the project bags for the foraging club are made out of a sturdy cotton and linen decor weight fabric. I switched to this weight of fabric, I think the round before this of the club, and I love it so much. And I am also now getting it printed at a small family-owned custom printing business, which makes me feel great. I love to support other small businesses. And something that I think people don't necessarily realize is that I do all of the drawings for my foraging bags myself. So these are all my original botanical illustrations, which I then have printed. I've started sharing a little bit more of that process on Instagram because I guess I didn't know if people would find it interesting. I absolutely love doing it. I love to draw. I think I was an artist before I was anything else. I've always loved drawing. So I've started sharing some behind the scenes looks at kind of the process of doing my foraging drawings. I have them in a highlight on my Instagram if you'd like to check them out. The bag for this coming round of the club is going to be on a beautiful sort of ochre gold color. It's the same as the background of the Foraging Club logo for the round that's in the shop right now. So I will pop that in here so that you can see it. So, and also every month also comes with a semi-precious stone progress keeper. So if you would like to join for the Foraging Club, that would be great, and I hope to see you there. Shall we chat knitting? Let's chat knitting. I have 2 finished objects to share with you. 2, count 'em, 2. First, we have the tulip sweater. It's so cozy. This is by Melody Hoffman of Bee Mandarines. Look at the cute little scalloped hem. Oh, I wear this all the time. I wear this multiple times a week. It is so cozy, so comfy. The yarn that I knit it out of, I got from October shop on Etsy. I believe it was shipped from Sweden, and it's reminiscent of Plotilopi. I think it's a little bit softer, so for me it's next to skin soft. That's not necessarily saying a lot because I have a pretty high tolerance for wool against my skin. I love it. I wear it all the time. I'll probably make at least one more tulip pullover. I was holding out for the tulip cardigan, which I believe is still coming out at some point in the future. But I think I get so much use out of the pullover that I think I would like another. And I do have this yarn in a few more colorways. So yeah, maybe I will knit another one. My next finished object is truly ancient. These socks were a whip for years, for no reason. But now they're done, heels and all. This is a pair of Hermione's Everyday socks, knit out of Sweet Sparrow yarns in the Magpie base in the Snowberry colorway, which is a holiday colorway from a few years ago, and at my particular gauge and stitch count, it knits into little stripes. I love these. I think they're so kind of Christmas elf feeling, and they're a little bit sparkly. So those will be lovely to wear once the weather cools down. I anticipated that I would have a third finished object to share with you, But as you may have seen in my Instagram stories a couple weeks ago, what I thought was going to be a finished object is now a barely started whip. Let me show you. This is the beginning of my framework bralette by Jessie Made, I think is the brand name that she goes by. But you probably know her as Jessie May on Instagram. In the Sweet Sparrow Yarns Goldfinch base, which is a 100% superwash merino DK base, super soft and squishy. In the Zinnia colorway, which was from my spring and summer cottage garden collection from this year. There is still some of this in the shop if you'd like to be twinsies. Let me show you how it's knitting up. Forgive the dirt under my nails. I was working on my fence this morning for my front flower garden, and I have some dirt. Yeah, I love how this colorway is knitting up, which is good because I get to knit the whole thing again. I had completed 3 of the 4 straps on the framework bralette when I came to the 4th strap and realized that my stitch count was way off, like 12 or 15 stitches off, and had been the entire time I was knitting it. There was just no way to fix it. My stitch count must have been wrong at the beginning, and then as I went around and sort of divided the bralette into quadrants the way that the pattern calls for, I guess on the 4th quadrant I was just like, and the rest go in here. Yeah, so there was no fixing it, so I did rip out the entire thing and start again. But I'm pretty happy with the progress that I'm making on it, and the yarn is definitely no worse for wear. One of the things I really like about this base is that it's very bouncy and sturdy, so it can definitely handle being frogged and reknit. I'm really looking forward to wearing this finished piece, so I am pretty motivated to get it done soon. I just took out my next whip and realized I'm in the middle of a row, so I'm just going to get to the end of the row really quickly because I don't need to be ripping out another whip. The other whip that I am actively working on is a pair of socks. Oh, I love these so much. Look how pretty those colors are. This is the Mary Kitschmiss colorway from Nomadic Yarns on her yak sock base. And the toe is from an Advent mini skein from Grand Wico a couple years ago in her Advent calendar. These colors are gorgeous. They remind me of spring in the woods when you can see the moss on the stones and flowers starting to come up, the beautiful deep green of the pine trees. Oh, I love these. I'm finding myself feeling very excited about knitting socks for the first time in quite some time. I would say that I am primarily a garment knitter, but I've noticed that, especially since we've moved here, I wear hand knit socks every day, probably 6 months, 7 months out of the year, at least in the mornings and the evenings. So I'm feeling very inspired to knit a lot of socks because I need more to keep up with my own demand for them. And I prefer to knit my socks on the Addi Flexi Flips. They are like a very small circular needle, or I guess you could also think of them as double pointed needles with a bit of flexible cable in the middle. and they come in a set of 3, and you have your stitches on 2 of them and you knit with the third. So it's similar to knitting a sock on 2 circular needles, but in my opinion there's a lot less fussing with pulling the needle to where it needs to be able to work the stitches, and also much less of a chance of accidentally pulling the wrong end and pulling your needle out of your stitches. So very enjoyable. I've actually found that I will pretty much only knit on a sock if it has my flexi flips in it. I don't hate 2 circulars, and I only knit on 2 circulars for quite a long time, but these are just so much more comfortable. What I'm knitting next, I am very much into the idea of knitted tank tops, and they seem to be pretty popular right now. There's a lot of patterns coming out for them. I, like much of the rest of the world, am wearing pants that don't have elastic waistbands for the first time in over a year, which is exciting because it greatly expands my wardrobe possibilities. So I would like to knit myself some sort of flowy tank tops to wear with jeans. And I think I'm going to do my next tank top after I finish the framework bralette, which I am lengthening quite a bit. I forgot to mention that. I am lengthening that so that it will hit about at my natural waist. So that will be more like a tank top for me. I won't be wearing it as a bra because I have a D-cup chest and I could take somebody's eye out. So I will be wearing it as a top rather than a bra. And then I am going to knit, I'm not sure what tank top yet, maybe the outline tank out of Herb Garden, which is another of my colorways from the Cottage Garden collection. It's this really soft sage green with a slightly gray undertone. It's just a very soothing color. It feels very very breezy and cool. So I'm going to be knitting with that on my House Wren tweed base. Oh, there we go. I'm really looking forward to that. I've been wanting to knit with this color ever since I first dyed it. Another thing that is making its way to the top of my list of what to knit next is currently living in this beautiful Shop Knitting Nelly bag. Morgan is so talented. I love her bag so much. I started swatching for this in Ireland like 2 years ago and I just haven't knit it yet for whatever reason, but I think I'm going to knit the Arabusto sweater. The designer's name is escaping me right now, but I will pop it on the screen. And I will be knitting that out of Brooklyn Tweed Shelter, which is their worsted weight. Is that what this is? I think it is. I caked up all the skeins and there's not a label to be found. I'm sure it is. So this is in the postcard colorway, which is lovely. It's sort of a purpley gray with bits of pinkish red in it. And I think this will be very much in the same vein as the tulip sweater, in that it is a warm woolen spun pullover in a nice neutrally color that goes with pretty much everything in my wardrobe, that I can just pop on even in the spring and summer when I go out to my garden in the morning to see how everything's doing. It's still usually pretty cold, or when we're walking Reggie in the mornings. So I think this will be a very versatile piece in my wardrobe. I have seen a modification, which I think I am going to do, where people leave the baubles off the sleeves. Thinking about it, I'm not sure if I want to do the baubles at all, which seems so silly because that's the whole kind of point of this sweater, is all these cute baubles. But when I think about why I enjoy wearing the tulip so much, it is completely unfussy. I don't know. Should I knit the baubles? I'll probably knit the baubles. I like baubles. Yeah, because if I were to knit it without the baubles, it would essentially just be a raglan pullover, which I would wear a lot, but I don't know if it would bring me as much joy as all of those fun baubles. We'll see. I'll do a swatch with the baubles and go from there. Let's chat about what I am reading and listening to. I am reading Atomic Habits by James Clear. I am very interested in habits. I really enjoyed the Gretchen Rubin podcast, Happier, for quite a while. I did find that the content of the podcast became a little bit unrelatable to me. So I did put it aside for that reason. But I still find the concept behind it very interesting. And I'm very much enjoying Atomic Habits. Basically, it's about how to create habits that you will actually stick with. Something that I am finding very helpful is the idea of habit stacking. So when you are doing something that you would do anyway, you just kind of stick on the habit of what you would like to get into. So let's see, what's an example? So for a while, it was a habit that I would go and meditate right after we got back from walking Reggie in the morning. And I really want to get back into that habit because I felt noticeably better when I was doing that. So I am not terribly far into this. I'm maybe a third of the way through, but so far I'm finding it very helpful. I think I was reading this book on my last episode too, which is saying something because I think that was in February. This is Return to the Secret Garden by Susan Moody. It is a sequel to the book The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. It's all right. How's that for a recommendation? It's okay. I thought the beginning was interesting. How far through the book am I? 3/4. I'm ready for it to be done. All the characters are becoming kind of unlikable, which is realistic, I suppose. But yeah, it's a little bit too much soap opera, not enough substance for me. So I think I will be donating this to the little free library in our town. I also recently reread one of my all-time favorites, Mandy, by Julie Andrews Edwards, who is also Julie Andrews. I reread this in 2 evenings recently, and it's just as good as I remembered. And I think it's it's very much a book about a child who is a kindred spirit to me. I don't want to spoil it for you because it's so wonderful, but if you enjoy children's literature, if you enjoy like a very cozy read, then I would definitely recommend picking up a copy of Mandy. And the last 3 books that I'm going to mention are all gardening books, because I just can't get enough. If I'm not gardening, I'm reading about gardening, I'm watching something about gardening, I'm listening to gardening podcasts. It's just bringing me so much joy right now. So first, I am reading Carrots Love Tomatoes. Sorry about the glare on this one. This is by Louise Riot. And this is all about companion planting. So what plants to put near each other in your garden to use as a way of pest control, or because they help improve the flavor of each other, and also what plants not to plant near each other because they can inhibit each other's growth. So this is great. I would highly recommend this to anyone who enjoys gardening. And the other 2 are both by Erin from Floret Farms. And she is an amazing farmer florist. So this book came out in, I think, 2018, and this is Cut Flower Garden. And this is an excellent general guide to growing a lot of different varieties of flowers that are often used for bouquets. It's just visually so beautiful. It's a gorgeous book just to look through. It could very much be a coffee table book. And this is her newest book called Discovering Dahlias, which I have found so helpful. I have a truly absurd amount of dahlias that are ready to be planted out in my flower garden, largely because of this book. I won't go into it too much. I'll save this for the garden tour that I have ready to come out next week. But part of growing dahlias is that you can divide your tubers, which will then give you more dahlia plants. And this book has such an amazing guide for how to do that. It's something that I think is often seen as quite difficult or intimidating to do. But this book has such a wonderful guide to it that I think I tripled or quadrupled my number of dahlias from last year. And some of them I did buy, but the majority of that came from just splitting my tubers from last year. Listening, as always, I am listening to the Let's Go to Court podcast. They are on vacation for the month of June, so I am listening to back episodes. If you enjoy true crime, but also want a lot of humor, but also want something really well researched, I would definitely recommend Let's Go to Court. I also almost finished with my annual re-listen of my favorite audiobook. It's probably my favorite book as well, but I've actually never read it in physical form. I've only listened to the audiobook of The Signature of All Things by Elizabeth Gilbert. It is wonderful. It is very slow paced. The reason I only listen to it maybe once a year is because it is something like 35 hours long. It is a very long book, and worth every minute. It's really wonderful. It is about a female botanist studying mosses in the 1800s, and I would highly recommend it. I recently asked on Instagram if you had any questions that you would like to ask me, and you did. So I am going to answer some questions from all of you. Val the Rizzle says, have you seen any cute wild animals on your walks lately? All the time. So right now we're seeing a lot of orioles, which is so exciting. They are so vividly orange mixed with black, and it's so striking. It's such a gorgeous combination. And they're bringing me so much happiness every time that I see them when we're walking by the river. What else? Oh, this morning, actually, I saw some goslings who were at that like teenage stage where they're not little anymore, but they're still like fluffy and kind of awkward. They're not totally confident yet in their swimming and their flying, very much at the gangly teenager stage. I also have a vole situation. Voles. So if you're not familiar with what voles are, they are little sort of rodent creatures about the size of a hamster, or a little bigger in the case of the one that has a delicious feast in my garden all the time. So yeah, I do see them a lot, and they're really cute. Definitely not good for the garden. Absolutely adorable. And very fearless of people. They routinely come and kind of check out whatever I'm doing in the garden. And Reggie found where one of them was living and started digging, and the vole ran out and pressed itself up against my shoe, and I was able to just kind of scoop it up and move it to safety away from Reg. Oh my god, it was so cute. It's hard to even begrudge them a seedling every now and again because they're so adorable, and they seem as pleased to see me. Well, I would say as pleased to see me as I am to see them, but I'm not super pleased to see them because they're probably eating something that I would rather they didn't. But they always seem pleased to see me when I'm in the garden. Tartarian Baba, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, asks, favorite, least favorite things about living in a rural place. Favorite, it's so quiet. Oh, I love it. And just feeling like I can go outside whenever I want, and I don't have to be en route to anywhere to be able to be outside, which was really not the way that I felt when I was living in Bayonne. Because being very introverted, but also, someone who loves nature, I kind of would have to choose between going out into the park and knowing that I would inevitably end up having to have a conversation with someone because I have one of those faces. People come and talk to me. I've tried every cue in the world to say, please don't talk to me, like headphones, sunglasses, the whole range. I've tried it. People just come and talk to me, which is flattering, but also if I'm out in nature because I'm trying to recharge, it makes it difficult. So it's really great to be able to go outside and know that I probably am not going to see anybody 90% of the time. Least favorite, I don't know if I have a least favorite. We're very lucky in that we're in a rural area. We're in a town of 1,200 people, and we are on the end of a dead-end dirt road, and on an acre of property that is part of our rental, but our landlord also owns a lot of land in the area. So that's all just woods around us, which is great. And then the Delaware River is right across the street. So we get the positives of a rural area, but we also have things like an amazing farmer's market half a mile away. The post office is an easy walking distance. I don't think I have a least favorite thing. Our power goes out, not a lot, but I don't know, maybe once every couple months. That's all I can come up with. I love living in the country. J.N. Badgley says, can I come pet Bilbo and Reggie? Yes, absolutely. But really, if any of you are in the Catskills, specifically in the Barryville area, over the summer for vacation, it is definitely a popular vacation spot. Get in touch with me. Let's meet up. Let's have coffee and knit. I would love to do that. Jane Ellen Klein asks, are you and Jacqueline Salem still close friends? Sadly, no, we're not. As people's life circumstances change and their priorities change, sometimes friendships that had been really strong are just not, there's just not as much room for them. And at a certain point, no matter how much you can try, it comes to a point where the attempt to keep up that friendship is not serving either person. And unfortunately, that's the way it goes sometimes. Passport Radio, who is my brother, asks, what is your favorite cheese? So I think he asked this as a joke. But if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I do have a favorite cheese, and I talk about it a lot. My favorite cheese is the fresh mozzarella from, I think it's pronounced Tonja's Dairy in Callicoon, New York, and they sell at my local farmer's market, and it's so good. It is so creamy, so fresh. It's almost more like eating a burrata than it is like eating mozzarella, because it is just that velvety. Oh, it's so good. Maria Woolen Forest says, will you please rub that sweet baby's tummy? That was because I had a picture of my kitty Bilbo with his tummy up as the picture when I was asking if anyone had questions. Yes, I certainly will. He loves tummy rubs. In his case, it is not a trap most of the time. He might attack your hand, but it won't be because you're rubbing his belly. It'll be because he just likes to attack hands. And Maria also asks, also an actual question, favorite thing in the garden this year? Ooh, that is tough. So I'm really loving zinnias. I don't have any blooming yet because it's still quite early. I'm in zone 6A, so they probably won't bloom for another month or so. But they are just so satisfying to grow, and I can't wait until my garden is just full of them. We are currently eating greens out of the garden pretty much every day, which is so gratifying. We are eating chiji misai, which is an Asian green that has a delicious sort of umami flavor to it. We're eating bok choy, we're eating lettuce. I've recently planted out a lot of squash. My peas were some of my favorite things. Then a groundhog got them all. I can't even talk about the groundhog. The groundhog is no longer a problem. It was not harmed in any way. The groundhog. Anyway, same with my sweet pea flowers. They were doing really well, and then the groundhog, he didn't eat them because they're poison, but he tested every single one to make sure that he didn't want to eat it, and then left the broken stems on the ground. But I think they will be one of my favorite things. I've replanted. Thankfully, it's still early enough in the season that I should still be able to get a crop of peas and a crop of sweet pea flowers. So we'll see how it goes. Something that is in the garden that I'm really obsessed with right now is pumpkins. I don't know if I've ever cooked with a whole pumpkin. In fact, I'm fairly certain that I have not. And yet, I keep planting pumpkins to the point that I have pumpkins that are going to be trellised. I have an arched trellis made out of a cattle panel, and there'll be pumpkins on that. I've got pumpkins over on my long vertical trellis. Vertical isn't the word I mean. Lengthwise, my long lengthwise trellis. Obviously it's vertical. I've got pumpkins that are going into the flower garden. I can't get enough. I don't know what I'm going to do with all these pumpkins, particularly varieties that can be up to 30 pounds. But I cannot stop planting them. Ridiculous. UK Knitter Sam says, will you be recording a podcast soon? I'm missing them. Yes, here it is. Unstitched Unicorn says, what are some techniques you use to get out of a creativity slump? So I find that I get in a creativity slump if I am trying to force myself to be creative in one specific area. For instance, if I am doing a ton of dyeing and I'm trying to come up with new colorways, but I'm not feeding my creativity in any other way, that's when I get into a slump. So for me, it's really important to continue to nurture that creativity. And for me, that comes in the form of walks in nature and hiking through the woods, working on my garden. Particularly right now, I work on my garden for a few hours every day. I usually wake up around 6 and tiptoe out to the garden for a couple hours. And then I work on it a little bit more after work. But I'm finding that even though they're not really related, I am finding so much inspiration for Advent colorways. Just because I'm really nurturing that creativity in other ways as well. So I would say make sure that you're taking time for yourself. You can't expect creativity to flow out of you if you're not giving it anything to work with. So there's my advice. How did you and Avid Knits meet? Also from Unstitched Unicorn. Sarah, how did we meet? I think we just started talking on Instagram and found that we really liked each other's company. And then we met when Sarah and her husband Onésimo and their son Hector were in New York. And that was so exciting. It was wonderful. Sarah is just an amazing person. She is so funny and so kind and smart and just cool. Definitely check out her podcast, the Avid Knits podcast, if you have not. Yeah, I don't remember exactly why we started talking, but I am so glad that we did. B. Charlie says, if you could rewind to starting college, would you pick another major and which one? So for newer viewers, I went to the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City and majored in fashion design. That's an interesting question. I really love designing clothing, particularly in the context of design school, where you're just kind of given a prompt and you can just go with it. That said, my program at FIT was incredibly intense. Right before I got there, they had condensed their 4-year bachelor program into their 2-year associate's degree program, and then added 2 more years worth of content for the second 2 years of the bachelor program. So I did essentially nothing except schoolwork the entire time I was in college, which sounds obvious, but when I say I did nothing else, I mean I did nothing else. I was in New York City and I barely explored it while I was in college because I just had no time. I don't think I would have changed it though. I learned so much that I still use all the time. And I really nailed down my aesthetic. And I also gained a lot of confidence in my aesthetic because it was very much not what was in style at the time. I went to FIT from 2008 to 2012, and that was very much the time period of like Rodarte's height of popularity. Everything was black, everything was drapey, and that's just not my aesthetic at all. And I think consistently having to present my work, which did not kind of fit in with a lot of the other work that was being presented, kind of forced me to build my confidence, because I really couldn't do anything other than be myself and express myself creatively in the way that came naturally to me. And presenting that, day after day, week after week, month after month, I kind of learned to stop apologizing for it and just be who I am. Jennifer Kirshner, hi Jen, asks, I couldn't personally choose a favorite, but do you have a favorite colorway that you dye? I have favorites for various reasons. For instance, I love my Pajama Day colorway because it's beautiful, but also because I felt like that was a colorway where I really nailed down what kind of dyer I wanted to be and how I wanted people to feel when they look at my yarn. So that's a special one. I think like in a lot of art, often my favorite is whatever my most recent is. For instance, I currently cannot get enough of a colorway that I recently dyed called Warm Whispers, and that is for the Advent calendars, and I'll be releasing that later this year. But I think like a lot of things in art, your most recent is your favorite at the time. So that is all of the questions. Sewing! I forgot to show you my sewing. I only have one project, and it's one that you have seen the beginnings of, but now it is almost done after I put it down for a few months for no real reason. This is a cute little pinafore dress. Here's the back. This is a hacked version of the Marilla Walker, I think it's Robert's collection. It might be Robertson collection. I think it's Robert's collection dungaree dress. So I'll pop in a picture of that dress, but it is a straight, slightly A-line dress. I decided that I wanted to put a big old gathered skirt on there, as I want to do. So I made a waist seam, added a big gathered skirt with pockets in the side seams. I have lined it with this cute little yellow floral, which I have had since I was probably 16. I actually made another pinafore dress out of that fabric when I was in high school. And it's basically done. All that I need to do at this point is make buttonholes. The pattern calls for like popper buttons like you would find on a lot of overalls or denim in general. But I have decided that I'm going to do buttonholes in this front bib piece that I can put the straps through, because I have quite a lot of strap back here that's just kind of hanging out. And that's when I've adjusted it to where I would like to have the overalls, well, the bib part of it sit. So I'm going to do buttonholes so I can thread that through and do a cute little knot. And then at the side, it has a little button tab so that you can get the overall dress on and off. And I'm going to be putting these cute little buttons, these cute little peachwood buttons from Favor Valley Woodworking onto that button tab. And then it will be done, and I'm really looking forward to wearing it. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm looking forward to chatting with you again soon. If you didn't see it, I posted a little silent vlog. There's music, but I don't talk in it. A few days ago, just to share a cozy weekend day with you. And I'm going to be posting a garden tour and just garden chat in general, because I know that not everyone is interested in that, so that way you don't have to sit through the garden chat if you're only here for the knitting, and vice versa. And also because I have a lot to say apparently about everything. So that needs to be split off into its own separate video. But I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.